I'm Adri. I'm one of the co-organizers of One Games Boston. Over the years, I've been involved with running 4 different organizations, a combination of things I've created from scratch and things I've sort of taken over. Why is this doing this? So Jenna basically suggested that I talk briefly about sort of lessons I've learned, both in creating and rebuilding communities. I hate making slides with fiery burning passion, so you don't get any. Sorry. I also ramble when I'm nervous, so sorry as well. The first thing I want to stress is don't do it alone. Two of the communities I've run, I was the only person in charge, and I'm really bad at asking people for help. Don't be me. Find someone or multiple someones who you mesh well with, and at least be willing to reach out to the community for help if you need it. Obviously work with other people can bring conflict, but try to be flexible, compromise, figure out what you really care about and try to compromise on that. Right now I'm running big with one other person and we make a pretty awesome team. We agree about, we have the same goals in mind, the organization should be, what we want it to be. And we also sort of complement each other well because we kind of bring different skills to the table, which is really helpful. The second big thing is building and sometimes rebuilding the community itself. Rebuilding is usually easier, assuming the previous organizer is willing to help you. Like when we took over WIG, Courtney was really fantastic about this. She was really excited about the transition. She actually handpicked us to take it over. So she gave us access to WIG social presences and basically made a public announcement. It also helped that before its hiatus, WIG had been super active and it was only about 8 months. So people hadn't really, we hadn't fallen off the map and people were really excited that we're back. We've also been super active about securing speakers, making use of all the tools available to us, and advertising to new people. Scheduling speakers definitely takes a lot of time and effort, but it's a lot easier when you already have this community built up and you can sort of prove yes, there's interest, we're not just wasting your time. Sometimes it takes a long time to build up a community, and that's totally okay. There are definitely cases where I've inherited organizations that pretty much dead. They were never really been active before. The mailing list, half the addresses bounce. And the previous organizer had moved to Pittsburgh and doesn't want any part in this. So you basically just have to treat it ignore everything happened previously and basically just start from scratch. Basically just, suggestions, use all the resources available to you. Social networking has always been great. We do a lot of Twitter. Most of you have seen emails from me on the news mailing list. Reach out to other organizations that do similar things. Ask your friends to spread the word. Even if they're not interested, they probably know somebody who is. And be incredibly open to feedback. Sometimes there are people who you think would be interested, and there's some reason they're not attending, and maybe it's scheduling, maybe they don't feel comfortable. Just ask for feedback and be incredibly willing to listen and open and not judgmental. Let's stop doing this. No, not really. The last thing I sort of want to point out is it's really the sort of importance and difficulties of finding space and setting location. Finding space is a large part of some of my previous organizations couldn't hold the events they wanted to. So basically it turned out really great. We do casual things at a local pub where we just not reserve a room in advance and show up a dozen people. That doesn't always work, especially if we're doing presentations. Depending on the purpose of your organization, you might have contacting universities or companies, but you basically have to reach out. In my case, I spent a day calling restaurants, which is terrifying for me, but it needs to happen. And people are incredibly friendly and they want to help you. And especially if you're open to doing something on Monday or Tuesday, you can usually get free space. A lot of restaurants have really high minimums or they have room fees, and they basically lead all of that for us. Remember to take your potential needs into consideration from the start, so you're not scrambling when things change. Do you need a private space? How large of a space do you need? Do you want there to be food and drink available, or at least allowed? Do you need an AV setup? This was actually a huge concern for us, and we've had some scheduling snafus where they tried to put us in a different room where they didn't have an AV setup, and we had to be incredibly forceful, stand up for yourself and be assertive when you need to be. But definitely make finding priority and picking consistent meeting time a priority. Keeping an event at the same date every month is incredibly helpful. You want to, especially when you're starting, you really want to be flexible. I'm not saying this advice, you personally want to be flexible. You want to so everyone can come, and honestly, you're just going to make things really confusing for people, and asking people what they think never works out, because they're never going to agree, or they're just not going to tell you what they think. So basically, I learned pretty early on, you basically just have to be we're meeting here at this time. If you want to show up, come, and people usually do. And if they really want to show up, they will figure out a way to do so. hate my phone. Why are you doing this? Okay, I can't really talk about this. All right. If you do change the time and place, be very, very clear about it. People are creatures of habit, and they will show up in the wrong place. Especially if you move to one restaurant to another restaurant with the same name and in a different city. We did that with Women Games, and we were like, it moved because the one in Harvard shut down, and basically everyone still goes to Harvard, and they're like, what the hell, like, where is it? And we're now in Kendall, so that was always confusing. It also makes finding speakers a lot easier when you already have a definite time and place set up. Just because, like, otherwise it's, you want to settle things as soon as possible. I tend to get my speakers months in advance, and like, they know exactly it's going to be this day. Basically, I'll stay on top of your speakers, sort of like an earlier point. Remind them that they're talking. A lot of them, for like up until the last month, they're just like, I know I'm talking. I don't know about what. Harass them. Tell them, make them give you a bio, make them give you at least a title and a blurb as soon as possible, because sometimes, we've had to put advertising off like the last week, and this doesn't work. Yeah, basically, I don't really have a succinct takeaway message. These are basically just things from my experience. Yeah, feel free to approach me later if you have questions or if you need specific advice or just somebody to rant to. So,